Hello guys, so in today's video we will talk about the data types in the JavaScript. So let's start. So in the previous video we have talked about the variables in the JavaScript. So now we will talk about the data types. A value in the JavaScript belongs to a certain type like string or a number. So totally there are 8 primitive basic data types in JavaScript. Primitive means basic. There are total 8 primitive data types in the JavaScript. For suppose, so a variable can hold any value. So if you take any variable, now that variable can hold any type of value. That means there is no restriction. That means a variable say let age is equal to 21, and first you have stored 21, and then again you have stored a string in the same variable. That means a variable can have any type stored. So the programming languages allowing this kind of behavior such as JavaScript are called dynamically typed. That means the data types in the language exist, but the variables are not bound to them. That means the variables which you create are not strictly attached with the data types. You can have any data type stored in a variable. You can change the data type of the variable also, like here. First the age is 21 and then the age became 10. Like this you can change. These type of languages are called dynamically typed. Example, Python is also dynamically typed. So if you take C and C++, they are statically typed because the variable is definitely bound to the data type. That means once you declared a variable and given a data type, you can't change it. But in the JavaScript you can change it, the data type also. Once you declared, you can change. So these are the those 8 primitive data types: number, BigInt, string, Boolean, null, undefined, object and symbols. We will talk about these 7, but these 6, but objects and symbols in the latest video we will explore those. So now let's talk about the number. The number type represents both integer and float. So the number data type, it represents both the integer as well as the float also. We can perform all kind of arithmetic operations. And here the number data type can also have the special values like infinity, minus infinity. NN means not a number. They also come under the number data type. So let me explain. So what happens is, when we divide something like 1 by 2 by something by 0, so its answer is infinity. So in the JavaScript it is given a special value infinity. So similarly, minus infinity, any number minus number divided by 0, it leads to minus infinity. And this NN is a special value where when we try to multiply a number in a string, like two type two type of different data type, when we try to do some kind of operations, arithmetic operations, then NN is the output and it will propagate. That means once NAN comes, all the results will be NAN only because of one NAN. NAN means not a number. So let's talk about the BigInt. So earlier the number type in JavaScript, the number type cannot represent integer values larger than this or less than this. So if we use the number data type, we can have only this particular range. And if we want a number to be even greater than this particular range, you could use the BigInt data type, where you just need to append n. For example, 1, 2, 3, so on, a big number. At the end, you just need to append this particular n. That's it. That will be treated as a BigInt data type. But BigInt is rarely used. We don't use the BigInt very oftenly. We can ignore it. So now let's talk about the string. So string is a very common data type. String in the JavaScript is surrounded by the quotes. So you could have double quotes like this, some text, or you could have single quotes like this in the text, or also you could have backticks. We will talk about these three. So in JavaScript there are three types of quotes. So double quotes, this is a double quotes. In double quotes the message is hi guys. In single quotes the message is hi guys. So these both are exactly same. But the backticks is introduced in the newer versions of the JavaScript. So what happens using the backticks is, as we talked, double and single quotes are simple codes, so they're practically same. Backticks are the extended functionality codes. They allow us to embed variables and expressions into the string by wrapping them in this particular. So for suppose you have a variable called age. Say the age is 21. So what you could do is you could embed this variable inside the string itself. So for that we need to write below the escape button the backticks are available. So you need to press this one first backtick and it would say my age is. So you need to write this special syntax dollar in curly braces. You need to write the variable age, like you need to close the backtick. So this is evaluated by the JavaScript engine. Instead of this particular whole value, 21 is replaced. So the string is my age is 21. So that is about the backticks. You could embed the expressions and the variables into the string. It's a newer version. Let's go forward. Boolean. As we all know, the Boolean data type has only two values, true and false. So this is commonly used to store yes or no values. For example, when you want to ask a user yes or no questions, you could store the results in the form of a true and false, like that. So this data type Boolean has only two, true and false. True means yes, false means no. Null is itself a data type. So in JavaScript, null is not a reference to a non-existing object or a null pointer like in some other languages. Like in some other languages like C and C++, you would see a pointer being null. That means the pointer is not pointing to any address. So in JavaScript, it is not. It is a complete data type. So in JavaScript, it's a special value which represents nothing empty or a value which is unknown. That means when you assign any variable, for example, when you assign any variable a null, that means that variable has no data, it's empty, or its value is unknown, like that. So you can assign a null to a variable. So we will see all this in the coding exercises. Let's talk about the undefined value. So the meaning of undefined value is not assigned. So you should never use undefined data type directly. You could use the null data type, but you should never use the undefined directly. If the variable is declared but not assigned, then value it's. So for suppose you declared a variable using say var or let anything, no problem. Var, I think we need to use var only. Let's take var for this particular example. I can't exactly remember, but let's take var for this particular example, var a, and you did not initialize this value. So its value will be undefined till you assign it. That means, for suppose you write some piece of code over here, and now here you initialize it to 5. So when you reference this a in between, its value turns out to be undefined. So so undefined is used when it is a variable is declared but not assigned, then its value is undefined. It is possible to explicitly assign undefined to a variable, but it is not recommended. As we have talked, the JavaScript engine itself does that, so we should not do that. So about objects and symbols, we will talk about object and symbols in the later section.